Hey everyone, and welcome to Already Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Star Trek The Next Generation Season 2, Episode 18. It's called Up the Long Ladder. So, full spoilers for the episode, as always. In this episode, the Enterprise encounters a civilization that's settled in the early 22nd century, where, records and, shipping manifests were a little bit on the spotty side due to chaos. And this civilization are essentially a bunch of like old school Irish people who
they're Amish Irish.
Yes, they have livestock. They do everything, the old school ways.
Their whole thing was they wanted, there was a bit of a cult that was like, hey, abandon technology and, and do everything the traditional methods, and they kind of stuck with that.
So yeah, they've stuck with that for the last couple hundred years. And then eventually we find out the second colony, which sort of splintered from that same colony in terms of the ship, that were more technologically based, and they have a more advanced society, and everything's very clean, and they've got all these matching like white outfits, and it's very, almost actually looks more like a cult than the other one does, but
Yeah.
But anyway, so Picard and crew have to deal with these two civilizations. They both have a problem. The Amish community, like, their planet's uninhabitable soon, so they just can't stay there. They need to be relocated. And the other colony have a problem where they had such a few amounts of people when they started that instead of procreating, they just had to keep cloning each other. And this leads, after generations of cloning, it has led to some problems, which Pulaski kind of points out. So that's the gist of the episode, more or less. We'll get into the details, of course. But Connor, did you enjoy Up the Long Ladder?
I mean, it's okay. There's some amusing moments. I think it's on the weaker end of episodes recently. It's
a forgettable episode for the most part. It's got a couple of funny moments, a couple of questionable moments, which we'll get into. It's kind of it's a weird one for a number of reasons, because it kind of like, it just deals with the one group for the first half of the episode. It's like, okay, so there's these people down there. There's a subplot with Worf that kind of just disappears halfway through the episode. But they bring these people up in the transporter room. They bring their goats and their chickens and whatnot, and Picard's kind of not amused. When Chief O'Brien says his name's O'Brien, like the lead Irishman's like, "Oh, a good Irishman," kind of thing. He gets all excited. And there's a lot of jokes where they try and start a fire, so the ship puts it out because there shouldn't be fires on a ship, and they don't quite understand. And he wants booze from the food and drink maker, and Worf gives him one. He's not impressed with how much bite it has, so Worf gives him a Klingon drink, and he's like, "Oh, aye, that's not bad," kind of thing.
Much better.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of things where Brenna, this guy's daughter, who Riker takes a liking to,
because of course he does,
gives him a lot of shit about wasting time and drinking when they should be working and yada yada yada. It's a bit of a stereotype, in all honesty. But and Riker,
the whole Irish community isn't.
Well, the whole community is, obviously, but I mean, this stuck out, especially the way that she interacted with her father. Like that in particular felt like it was really tropey to me. So Riker kind of befriends her, and he's kind of smooth. When he stares at her at first, she's like, "Have you ever seen a woman before?" And he's like, "I thought I had." And she's all kind of like, not flustered, but like it does make her stall for a second as she takes the compliment. And they do end up kissing and whatnot. So what's weird about the episode for me is that, okay, so they introduce halfway through, he's like, "Hey, did you find the other colony?" And Picard's like, "Other colony?" And this is after he tries to ask Picard if he wants a wife, because he wants to get rid of his daughter. And he's like, "Other colony?" So they go and find this other colony, and they find out that everyone's a clone. And the tone of the episode changes completely. As Riker and Pulaski, I think Data are going around. That's Worf. It's not Data. It's Worf, and they're walking around this like other colony. They're like it's kind of like an eerie atmosphere because everything's so clean, and the music's kind of a bit more mysterious.
A couple of you because they crashed when they left the colony ship.
Yes,
and there was only 5 of them left, and they were all scientists. So they went, "Screw it, clones."
So they explain this, and Pulaski's explained. Basically, she's the one who figures it out. So how long have you been cloning each other? And then when they're back up on the ship and they're talking to this prime minister, they she talks about, well, when you clone people, you keep cloning from the same people, you're making copies of copies, and eventually genetically there's going to be some anomalies, and eventually they're going to break down, and
it degrades.
Yeah, and kind of like copying. I mean, this is only people over a certain age will get this, but when you copy a VHS to a VHS, if you keep doing it, eventually it'll be unusable.
Yeah.
So.
And it's annoyingly less times than you'd think.
It is. You can't duplicate VHS too long, or too many times rather. But so they're like, what do we do about this? And the Prime Minister's like, oh well, we're hoping that you would give us some samples to spice up the gene pool a little bit. And Riker gets very offended. He's like, what? No. One Riker's unique and special even, but if I let you clone me, then it diminishes my existence. And I have a right to choose, about my own body. And this is kind of where some of the themes of the episode really come into it, because a lot of like the stuff with the men and women in the Irish community are kind of like hitting at that as well. It's like the idea of like choosing, and like they're trying to like get their daughters to marry off with people and things like this. Theme of people choosing who they are and what they do and what they do with their bodies is very much here, right?
Yeah.
So what I thought was weird is that eventually a solution, because there's a whole little subplot here where they knock out Riker and Pulaski and like steal some DNA, and then they find out, so Riker and Pulaski go and like kill the clones that are getting made, and there's a whole thing.
It sounds so ludicrous when you just say it like that.
I know, but ultimately the solution to this, when they're sitting there and they've got and like Picard's trying, and I actually loved looking Picard's face, where Pulaski says, well, ultimately they need livestock, otherwise they're just going to die out. They've got maybe 2 or 3 generations left. And Picard just gets this look, he's like, livestock, you say? They need people to integrate with, you say? 2 birds with 1 stone, if I ever. There was a point earlier on when he was looking through the cargo hold, and that's where the Irish community set up, and he just starts laughing maniacally at the end, and Riker's like, I wasn't expecting this reaction. He's like, well, sometimes you just have to give in to the absurdity.
Yeah, I love Picard of this. He's like, screw it, I can't cope. I can't deal with this shit anymore.
So, but he gets this idea, and they have the Prime Minister and they have the lead Irishman, and they're sitting there, and they're explaining to them that they're going to integrate, and the clone people are like, we've not procreated in like centuries. It's disgusting to think about now, the idea that we could do that. And
you'll get used to it.
And the Irish guy is like, oh yeah, I'll have some. 3 wives, you say? Because they say that to make this plausible, like 30 couples is enough to make a sustained gene pool, but for better chances, what you want is for every woman to have 3 children to 3 different men to really mix up the gene pool for future generations, right? And so here's my problem, right? What makes this weird to me is it raises the theme of choice. It raises the theme of people choosing what to do with their own bodies. And I think it's really weird that this meeting that solves the problem of these 2 cultures is just the 2 men. And it boils down to the Irish guy spitting his hand, goes, shake my hand and show me to my 3 wives. And he's all excited because he's going to get 3 wives.
Of course he is.
And it feels like, as much as from a pure logical science perspective this is sound, it felt really weird to me. And don't get me wrong, in the following scene when Brenna complains to Picard that she's been kind of forced into this, she's not ready to be Eve, like, this is kind of bullshit to put this upon, all of us women. He does say that, well, you've got a choice. If you don't want to be a part of that, then fine, you can stay in the Enterprise and we'll drop you off at a starbase. So he does give her the out, if she wants out. Yeah. But I still thought it was weird that the actual solution to the problem was completely met without her or anyone else like being there to be involved in the discussion. It was just the 2 men, and it came down to, oh yeah, give me my 3 wives, I'm ready for this. Like, it really felt like, as much as you got from Picard and their perspective of like just thinking of a logical conclusion, it doesn't change the fact that the lead Irish guy is like, oh yeah, okay.
No, that's the thing. I kind of want to defend in the sense that how he feels is kind of, it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't actually matter whether or not he's going, oh, 3 wives, or going, oh, fine, we'll do it. Because, ultimately, this is the one solution. They can take it or leave it. It's the only way that that society will survive, and it will give the Irish people a new home.
Call me crazy, but I feel this is something that the people should be voting on.
They probably should. I'm not arguing with that.
Or at the very least, what Picard says to Brenna should be said to everyone. Like, hey, if you don't want to be a part of this community, and it's understandable if you don't, then we'll drop you off at a starbase and you'll start a new life elsewhere.
Maybe he does say that to the others. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe he does. It felt so weird to me. you raise this idea of choosing, because the idea that Riker says I should have a right to choose my own body is clearly meant to be almost like a, not ironic, but like the idea of a man saying that is clearly raising the question that this applies to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's a very kind of weird hypocritical thing to have a male character say if you're not trying to intentionally sort of say, hey, clearly this is something that everyone should have the right to, right? And then have just the two men agree to it and shake hands. And I think the fact that one of them is clearly gleefully is getting 3 wives, like, oh baby.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's amusing in the sense of just, if you just at surface level, it's kind of amusing to watch.
It's amusing until you actually stop and think about the fact that this decision's being made without any of the women of either society having a say in this kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's really weird, and it kind of mixes up its messaging, and it's this thing where she's, Brenna makes the choice to stay, and Picard kind of convinces her by saying, hey, you're actually really smart and you're really strong. Maybe this community will only survive if you're actually here to sort of usher it in. Like, you're kind of an essential cog in this wheel.
Yeah, it's one of those where she's actually been running the Irish community for a while. Clearly, she's been the real power. And
Riker's attracted to her because of that power, and but it did, and she clearly makes her own choices earlier on with Riker, and like, I mean, it's never really explicitly said if her and Riker actually have sex or whatever. They just kind of kiss, and it's kind of implied that they might, and I think she's back with the rest of everyone so quickly that I almost doubt that they actually did. It feels too quick the way she's back with everyone else.
I assume they did, and the time was just passing weirdly.
Probably, because she showed up in the scene where Worf's giving him a drink, and that was like the very next scene. So it kind of felt weird that she's already back.
I assumed some time had passed between them, but I could have been wrong.
Yeah, so really odd. I mean, I think my headcanon for this is that Riker actually did get her pregnant, and Riker's genes are in this new gene pool.
And he's going to be fuming.
But that's a more natural way of having his genes in there.
It is.
Yeah.
Do you know, on that same note of people having choice, it's kind of weird when Riker's, he's so like, no, absolutely not. And Picard's just like, yeah, no one else on the ship's going to go for it either. Doesn't actually ask them. He's like, they're all going to feel the same.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's right in that most people will feel iffy about it. Like, most people won't like the idea.
Will, but I would be surprised if there weren't some of them that volunteered and went, sure, I don't mind. I'll if it'll help them out, I'll give them a couple of skin cells.
Yeah. I mean, maybe they should again put out like a message. Anyone who wants to volunteer their DNA for some cloning, if you're okay with that, then you can step forward. But like, but yeah, no, I mean, you've got a point. I mean, I have much less of a problem with that than I do.
I agree, but it's just when it's in the same scene, back to back with, hey, no, I get a choice. The rest of you don't have a choice.
It was as soon as Pulaski said every woman will have to have at least 3 children from 3 different men, and I'm like, we're not going to ask the women how they feel about that because they might object, and so and it's only really addressed with Brenna herself, and we kind of have to take her answer as kind of speaking for everyone. But it rubbed me the wrong way. It felt kind of weird.
No, I get that.
Especially given the themes that are brought up in the episode, it felt weird. But
yeah, it's a bit slapdash, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a well thought out episode, and it's another example of Gene Roddenberry in his old age clearly been a horn dog because we have to have the sexy talk.
Yep.
But hey, it is what it is. There was a subplot with Worf earlier on when he faints, and this will be more relevant later. But he faints. And then there's a scene with Pulaski where Pulaski's like, okay, you fainted, and Worf gets really Klingons don't faint. And she's like, well, okay, fine, you passed out and went on the floor. You went for a nap. But she discovers that he has this Klingon virus. It's a common thing they get when they're kids. Measles, just compare it to.
Well, yeah, because it's something that you get as kids, but you can catch it again as an adult.
Yeah.
As with chickenpox and measles.
And he's very, defensive about this, and he's like, hey, what would you think Riker would say if he got the measles that you speak of? And she's like, well, I'd probably feel quite silly, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But when Picard asks like what's going on, she kind of lies for him and says, oh, he's reduced his diet, but he forgot to reduce his physical activity, and that's resulted in this. It won't be a problem again, Captain. He's like, okay, fair enough. And Worf's like, oh, I'm in your debt for lying, because Worf didn't want this to be known. And as a result, there's one scene where he brings by some Klingon tea, which is this little ritual they do. And
it's like poisonous.
Yeah, and she doesn't actually she's not supposed to take the tea because it will kill humans, but she decides she wants to, so she takes the antidote so she can drink it. And they drink the tea together. And this is kind of setting up some themes for the episode, the idea of like the meeting in the middle, and the idea of her embracing his culture, him embracing hers, and it thematically makes sense, but it does kind of just like after this scene, which is like maybe 15-20 minutes into the episode, that's it. It's done.
Yeah. Oh, it's a very strangely paced episode throughout, because you have this, and like you say, the whole Irish community is the first half, and then we're into clones, and then I guess we should bring them together for the last 5 minutes.
Yeah, very weirdly structured episode for sure. But I mean, it's not the worst one once it's all added up. Like there's some entertaining beats here or there. There's definitely some moments that work.
Yeah, I think it's a mess of an episode that somehow is enjoyable enough despite itself.
I will say a little detail that might be important later is that Geordi reveals that he can tell when humans are lying because of his visor. He's not necessarily clocked it that well with other species. He can maybe do it with some, but humans, because that's who he's normally around, he's able to read if they're lying or not. Because he's down there helping fix some tech, which is what they're there to do when Riker and Pulaski get knocked out and their DNA stolen, and that's how they figure it out. Is that Geordi later on says, "Hey, I was looking for you too, and they were lying to me about where you were if they'd seen you."
Oh, it's pretty interesting. It's a whole new development for this. He kept that quiet, hasn't he?
He's kept that quiet, so we'll see if they remember this.
He definitely didn't want everyone to know that every time they lied to him, he's known.
So we'll see if this comes up again. I think, honestly, with this episode, we're just lucky that it wasn't Wesley, who's notably absent. It wasn't him that fell in love with an Irish girl, because that could have been disastrous.
Tedious.
Because as we learned a couple of episodes ago, when it comes to women, he's in complete control.
Oh, I'd forgotten about that, mercifully, and then you just ruined my life again.
But that is episode 18. We'll see what's coming next time. Let's see if we're going a better direction. Next episode is called Manhunt, and the description on IMDb is as follows. A midlife betazoid condition renders Ambassador Troy hot on the hunt for romance. Oh, God. Oh, God.
What were we just saying about Roddenberry?
Holy shit. And wedlock with Captain Picard. Or any man.
Where's Riker?
Basically, that says she targets Picard first, but then just gives up and goes after
whoever's there.
Yeah. So I don't even know. And the thumbnail, the image for this one on IMDb has really got me curious.
Why?
There's like these weird aliens that have what I can only describe as heads on the top of shower curtains. So we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes. Next episode.
I suspect I'm going to be very disappointed now.
So basically, what I read there, forgetting the image, which is in and of itself is quite exciting.
It's Troy in heat.
Troy in heat, yes. Troy's in heat and wants to hump Picard's leg. That is the sounds of this episode. So we'll see how it pans out. But that's the next episode. So this has been episode 18 now, so let us know what you thought of this one in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all the usual stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mail_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and support us for as little as $1 per month to keep all the content coming. At $5 or more, we'll get you a bunch of stuff as well. I mean, you get stuff for $1, you get bonus episodes of certain things, but at $5 you do get early access to a bunch of stuff, including these Star Trek reviews. You get them a week early, so go and have a look and see if you're interested. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you very much for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. And to everyone but Connor, live long. And actually, you know what? That's not my outro anymore. My outro in this show now is, as we know, Wesley Crusher, when it comes to the ladies, is in complete control.